Welcome everybody to our training today on biting. This is a kind of a new training on biting. I've done trainings in the past, but there's a lot of new information about biting and why children bite, and how we can help these children in the classroom. It's probably one of the most frustrating types of behavior that we deal with in the early education industry, is biting. Just because it's so mysterious and it's so confusing, and you're dealing with the aggressor and their parents, but then also the victim and their parents. And it's just one of those, it's just one of those behaviors that we've been struggling with, since the beginning of early education. But hopefully today, I'm going to give you some information that will hopefully put you in the right direction. Now, I need to give a very big disclaimer before we start our training today. Big disclaimer that you've got to have an open mind when you listen to what I have to say today. If you don't have an open mind, this webinar is not going to do anything for you. You've got to have an open mind and you have to be willing to try something new. All right. The other big disclaimer that I just want to throw out there at the beginning is that some of the material that I might go over today with you, some people may take it personal. Some people may get offended over some of the material that I'm going to go over today. The only thing I have to say about that, and I apologize for being abrupt, but if you get offended, or if you take anything personal, then we just identified where the problem is. You got to have that open mind right there. So many times when I work with teachers that are dealing with aggression, children in the classroom that are dealing with aggression, I hear the comment all the time, I have this kid in my classroom and I've tried everything and nothing works with him. Well, that's really not true. You haven't tried everything and something will work, all right? The first thing that we've got to change right there is your positive intent. And you've got to be optimistic about the child and hopeful about the child and willing to continue to work with that child. For those of you that have been in my classes before, we say this, almost in every single class I teach. When children act out in the classroom, all behavior is a form of communication. All right, all behavior is a form of communication. When that child bites, they are trying to communicate. They are either trying to communicate with you, they're trying to communicate with the other child, they're trying to communicate with the parent, wherever the stressor may be, and we're going to talk about that. And also keep in mind that any behavior and all behavior in the classroom is an opportunity to teach. Okay, so when you have a child that is a biter, that is an opportunity to teach. That is an opportunity to make a difference right there. All right, so those are kind of the big things right off the bat that I want to get out there. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. We've got a little slide presentation that you can see right there. Also, there were handouts that you could download under the materials tab. Hopefully you downloaded and printed those out. If not, no big deal. We're going to go over all of the information. All right. So the four things that I want to really discuss today with y'all is, number one, understand why children bite. All right. Number two, identify factors that create stress in the children's lives. Understanding why children bite and understanding the factors go hand in hand right there. Help you locate the stressors, and then start a stress reduction plan. All right. I don't want y'all to call it a biting plan anymore. I don't want y'all to call it a progressive guidance plan anymore. We're going to change our terminology, and we're going to start calling this a stress reduction plan, because biting is due to stress, to stress that the child has in their life. Stressed toddlers bite. And that's the one thing I really want y'all to take from this webinar today is that stressed toddlers bite. All right, now here's one of the new pieces of information that I want to share with y'all that is very, very interesting, and I want y'all to really think about this, and it's going to make a lot of sense. For years and years, we've been told that biting is a learned behavior, that children learn to bite when they see other children bite or when they are bitten. That's how they learn how to bite. We now know that that is absolutely false, and that is not true. Biting is not a learned behavior. Biting is a primitive behavior. I want y'all to keep in mind that, as humans, we are animals. We are animals just like the dog, the cat, the tiger, the lion, the bear. We're all animals. We all have animal instincts that we are born with, all right? And you got to go way back to brain development. Whenever you look at the executive part of the brain, the limbic system, and then the brain stem, and what happens whenever we get stressed and we downshift into our survival state, when you downshift into that survival state, you go into that primitive defense mode, all right? In other words, the animal comes out in you, all right? And all of y'all are aware that when you're dealing with a dog, when you're dealing with a cat, when you're dealing with any animal, when they are afraid, when they sense fear, or when they sense danger, what do? They bite, all right? That is their natural response when it comes to fear and aggression, is to bite. Just like the picture that I have here on the screen of the cat biting the dog. And if you look, what is the dog's response to the cat biting? He's got his mouth open. So that's the thing that we have in common with animals, is that primitive behavior. Now, when you talk about humans being advanced, some could say, right? Humans are advanced, so we should be above that animal instinct. You're absolutely right. But that's where the connections in the brain have to be formed the right way. The children have to learn how to be assertive rather than aggressive, and the connections have to be in place between the child and the attachment figure. The attachment figure could be one of two different people. It could be the teacher that's in the classroom, the early childhood teacher could be the attachment figure, or it could be the parent that is the attachment figure. The one thing we know about the brain, and again, this is one of the common things that we have with animals, is that we all have a person that we go to when we are in need. Whether we're stressed, whether we're anxious, whether we're angry, our brain instantly goes to what's called an attachment figure, all right? And sometimes that attachment figure is not available. And so when that attachment figure is not available, then the child has to try to deal with the stress the only way they know how. And at this point, it's the primitive behavior, it's the biting, okay? Those of you that are interested in attending my weekend mini conference that's coming up starting in September, we're going to talk a lot about attachment figures and that role that we play with the children. All right. So let's kind of talk now about why children bite. All right. Like I said already, stressed children bite. If y'all are taking notes right now, I want you to write that down. Stressed children bite. When you have a biting situation in your classroom, okay, the very first thing I want you to look for is stress, all right? Now, remember, and here's the hard part, you have to identify the stress from the child's point of view, not yours, okay? Not your point of view, not the parent's point of view, not the director's point of view. You have to identify, does this child feel safe in the classroom from their point of view. All right, so we're going to identify those stressors. We know now that when children are free of stress, they don't bite. All right. Now, some of you might be sitting here right now going, but Tim, I've been in a classroom, everything has been hunky-dory, everything has been going perfect, and the next thing you know, Johnny just reaches over there and bites a hunk out of some kid's arm. How in the world could they be stressed when everything was perfect in the classroom? I get that, all right? We've all been in that situation. But remember, you saying everything is perfect in the classroom right now is your point of view, not the child's, okay? This goes back to the 10 principles of discipline and guidance, that adults must see the world from the child's point of view in order to help the child with aggression, all right? Now, what I have up on the screen right here, this is not in your handout anywhere, but something that you can add to it. There's basically five factors that would stress a child out and cause them to downshift into that survival state. That animal instinct comes out and they bite. All right, and you can see those right there: pain, frustration, aggression, curiosity, and need for attention. And we're going to talk about each one of these for just a moment. All right, and those are in no certain order right there, okay? Now, pain is probably one of the easiest factors to eliminate the stress. When a child is teething, especially in those early toddler stages, that is very painful for the child. Teething rings, obviously, that they can use, something cold that they can bite on, anything that you can allow them to put into their mouth that is safe and that is not a choking hazard is definitely going to help relieve that pain. And a lot of times they bite because of pain, because of the pressure that it applies to the mouth, and that pressure eliminates that stress. All right, or a gel with parent consent, and a note from the healthcare professional. Those type of numbing medications is very helpful right there. That's the easy one. All right, probably didn't even need to talk about that one. Then we get into frustration and aggression. And I normally like to lump these two together because they really do go hand in hand. This is where I'm going to say it again, and I said it at the beginning of the webinar. When children act out, it's a form of communication. They are trying to communicate with you. Aggression comes from a sense of a child not feeling safe. And when a child doesn't feel safe, they become aggressive because they go into defense mode. They go into fight or flight. It's kind of like eat or be eaten. Considering this is a training for biting, you know, that's kind of funny. Eat or be eaten, but that's what their brain is telling them. They don't know how to communicate that, all right? They don't have the words to use like we do, and so that's very frustrating for them. They don't know how to communicate. They don't know what's going on, why they feel this way, and so it results in the bite. We're going to circle back to this one because that's a biggie right there. We're going to come back to that one. All right. I'm going to skip curiosity and I'm going to go to need for attention. You know, one of the common techniques that we use with biting, and I actually have it in the handouts, is shadowing a child. Shadowing that child so that you can catch the biter before it happens. You've got to be really careful with this because sometimes children do bite because it's a need for attention. And if you have an attachment figure close by that child at all time, they're going to grow accustomed to this. They're going to get used to it. And in the second you're not there, they're going to try to get that attention back. All right. Well, what did I do to have this attachment figure close by me? Oh, yes, I bit. So let me go find someone to bite so I get that person back. All right. This is what's called anxious attachment. All right. where whenever you've got a need for attention situation, anxious attachment is where the child is not able to balance the I and the we of a relationship. And so for them, they're egocentric. It's all about them. All right. And so I'm going to do whatever it takes for me to get the attention from my attachment figure. The reason why I called it anxious attachment is because the child that is biting in this situation, where a need for attention is the reason for the bite, they have experienced situations where the caregiver, the parent, the attachment figure has not always been there for them. And that has instilled a lot of fear into their CD-ROM that sits in the lower back part of their brain. So when something happens to the child, another toddler steps on them, someone takes their toy away from them, that turns the attachment system on. They're going to look for that attachment figure, but they're not quite sure if they're going to be there or not. Even though they're physically there, mentally, you know, that person may not be there for the child. That's where that biting for need for attention comes in. So how do we take care of this one right here? This one, again, is pretty easy. Consistency. Consistently being there for the child, meeting their needs when that comes up, all right? And continuously telling that child over and over again that they are safe. And the teacher telling that child, you are safe. I'm here to keep you safe, all right? And you're going to say that over and over again all day long. That child needs to know that they are safe. When they're safe and when they feel safe, they won't have that need for attention. All right, now let's go back to curiosity, because this is actually one of the #1 reasons why children bite. All right, they're curious about the other individuals in the classroom, whether it be the adult, whether it be the child, whomever it may be. I want y'all to remember basic child development. When a child is curious about another child, or when a child is curious about anything, you know, what's the first way children learn to explore? They learn to explore by putting things in their mouth. All right, so it is their natural instinct to explore with their mouth. When they're curious about another child, when they're curious about an adult, again, natural instinct to go and explore with their mouth. Now, when we come to, well, what is the child curious about? Well, it could be a number of things. Here, I want you to think about the 5 senses, all right? And what is stimulating the senses? You know, sight, sound, touch, smell, taste. All of those items right there are going to activate curiosity and make the child want to explore the only way they know how, and in some cases with their mouth, all right? Now, the biggest one is smell, all right? You know, everyone has a different scent. Some people have an odor, and that's going to draw that child in, make them curious. They're going to want to explore that. But it could be, you know, the soap that the parents are using at home, the laundry detergent, the shampoo, anything that's going to attract that smell. Now, if this is the reason why your child is biting, anything sensory related is going to help him out. All right, so a lot of sensory activities that they can feel, that they can smell, that they can taste, that they can listen to, that they can see, just stimulate, 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 and that's going to help in this situation. And show them the appropriate way for them to explore. All right, now we're going to get into some new stuff now. Everyone doing okay? Remember, if you've got a question, go ahead and type it into the chat section, and I'll see how I can help you out. All right, so let's kind of locate the stressors that, that could be causing a child to stress out and to bite. Well, the first 2 are the big ones, all right? Not enough structure in the classroom. And any of y'all that work with toddlers, work with young 2-year-olds, you know this, all right? when you do not keep the children engaged, they will find their own way of keeping themselves entertained. So you have got to run a very structured classroom, a lot of engagement, constantly keeping them busy. What I tell my teachers in my schools, I want you to keep those kids so busy that they don't have time to bite. All right? It's just constantly one thing after another. All right? Then we go to too much structure. Whoa, well, you just told me keep them busy, keep them busy. All right? So it's kind of a double-edged sword because too much structure can also cause the frustration that would create the bite. You know your children better than anyone. Okay, you're going to have to find that balance for each individual child when it comes to structure. All right, I'll give you a little hint. Your boys, you got to keep them so busy, so much structure, so much routine that they don't have a moment to think on their own. All right, because that's where you're going to get your problems. Girls, not so much. They're a little bit better at entertaining themselves in appropriate ways, where boys, not so much. But, you know, we also want to look at just the basic human dynamics as well. Not enough rest. How many of y'all have children that come into your programs at 6:30 in the morning and sometimes stay until 6:30 at night? Or mom and dad come in and they say, we were up late last night, you know, and then they're bringing them to you at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. Well, how do you feel when you're sleepy and you didn't get enough rest, or when you didn't sleep good last night? You know, we all get a little cranky right there. Even though it's not appropriate for an adult to bite, I'm sure all of you have experienced some of those moments where you really wanted to bite someone, and it was simply because you didn't get enough rest last night and you're on edge. Eating habits also, if the child's not getting proper nutrition, they're not getting enough to eat, that's going to make them cranky. Again, that's going to go back to that need for attention and curiosity. Have y'all ever noticed that a lot of biting happens in the 2-year-old room? But what else is going on in the 2-year-old room? Potty training, all right? This is like holding 2 sticks of dynamite right here, all right? You're trying to potty train this child who may or may not be ready for potty training. If they don't have all of the necessary skills needed to be potty trained, then they're forced into a very stressful situation that they're not ready for. We already know stressed toddlers bite, all right? Then you over here, the other stick of dynamite is this child that doesn't know how to communicate. That leads to frustration, that leads to biting. So that's like a whole nother webinar right there that we can do on potty training and how do you know if a child is ready for potty training. But I really want y'all to reflect on this, and I really want y'all to think about this. The children that you've had in your program that have been the chronic biters, were you also having potty training issues at the same time? The two kind of go hand in hand, all right? So that's kind of a big one. I hope I'm hitting some aha moments with some of you, all right? And then a lack of connections. And again, those of you that have been in some of my training classes, we do this all the time. Remember, connections on the outside build connections on the inside. During those first 3 years of life, your brain is building so many connections that will lay the blueprint, not the foundation, the blueprint for the rest of their life. All of that happens within the first 3 years. All of those connections are so incredibly important, and it's important that the connections are done appropriately, all right? When a child is connected, and when they feel connected, especially with their attachment figure, they won't bite. So if you are having a biting situation in your classroom, first thing you're going to look for, stress. All right. And remember, stress from the child's point of view. Next thing you're going to work on is relationships. And do I have a trusting and respectful relationship with that child from their point of view? All right. Now, I know we're talking about toddlers, we're talking about 2-year-olds here, but those relationships are important. All right. And the child has to feel safe in your presence. Okay. This is where, and I don't want to jump ahead because we're going to talk about this in just a little bit, but the way you respond to a biting situation is critical. All right. But your composure is imperative when it comes to working with a biter. If you get stressed out whenever you start having a biting situation in the classroom, if you start getting stressed out, what is the child going to do? They're going to get stressed also. All right. So your composure has got to be, I've got this. I'm going to help this child. All right. We're going to connect with this child and we're going to prevent future bites. That positive intent has got to be there. If that positive intent is not there, the children pick up on that because remember, they have an innate ability to feel what you're feeling. When you're afraid, when you're stressed, they're going to be afraid and stressed. And that kind of leads to the lack of attunement, all right? And really understanding the world from the child's point of view, okay? And understanding what's going on all around that child. That's important. All right. Now, I heard someone at the beginning of the webinar while we were waiting on everyone to get signed in, I heard someone quoting this, obviously from the handout right there. But this is another thing. If you take anything away from this training today, this is another one that I want you to take away. So if you're taking notes right now, I want y'all to write this down. All right. Nothing you say or do after a bite will prevent future bites. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Absolutely nothing you can say or do after a bite will prevent future bites, period. All right. So when you yell and scream at that kid, when the parent pops them in the mouth with their hand, don't do that in the classroom. I said parent. All right. Whatever old-fashioned technique that was used when we were growing up, I don't even want to start naming all that stuff. We now know that none of that stuff will prevent future bites. All right. It's all about being proactive, and it's all about you catching the aggression before it turns into the bite. All right. So that is huge right there. All right. Now, number one, how are you going to do this? How am I going to be proactive? First off, we're going to create a stress-free environment. All right. A stress-free environment from the child's point of view. All right. So, key moments during biting. All right. When do most of your bitings take place? Well, most of them take place during transition time, when you're moving from one activity to another, and during non-structured times, basically when you're not engaging the children. All right. What do these two key moments have in common? What they have in common is that the child doesn't know what's going on. All right. They're in limbo. What's going to happen next? I think circle time is next, but I'm not sure. All right. So this is where visuals, especially when you're dealing with nonverbal children, is going to be very important, especially for your biters. They need a lot of visual reminders of how their day is going to go. They need visual reminders of what's going to happen next, all right? So you're going to create a lot of routines and rituals in your classroom. And not only are you going to create a lot of routines and rituals, but you're going to put these in a pictorial fashion. So routine books, and they can be, 5x7, 8x10, cardstock on a spiral ring, laminated, whatever it is, so that the child can have it in their hands, especially your biter, so that they can constantly look what's going to happen next. It's kind of like your daily schedule, but you're going to put it in a book form, or it can be on a chart on the wall. But you need at least 5x7 pictures or bigger, because remember, we're dealing with children whose eyesight is not fully developed, so posting it way up on the wall is not going to help you any. But they need to know what's going to happen. When they don't know what's going to happen next, that's not going to make them feel safe, all right? And they cannot behave when they don't feel safe. They're going to go to that biting as a way of coping, okay? Especially if that attachment figure is not there communicating this with them, all right? So if you are going to take my advice, and I hope you do, and you're going to create routine books or ritual books, or you're going to make pictorial schedules that you're going to post all over your toddler and 2-year-old classrooms, the first 2 routine books that I would start with is transition time and any type of downtime you have during the day. And if you do have downtime during the day, I would strongly look at that and try to do some type of engagement right there. All right, now let's talk about when the biting does happen, all right? Remember the golden rule with aggression right here. Victim first, aggressor second. Always. Victim first, aggressor second. Now, this is where lending is going to come in. And especially when you're doing your stress reduction program or your stress reduction plan, you have to lend skills to the children. Remember, traditional consequences do not work if the children don't have the skills needed to do it, all right? So it's always best in a biting situation for you to assume that that child does not have the skills needed to be assertive, all right? So we need to lend those to the children. I talked right here about using the MAP technique. Model it, add visuals, practice. Model, add visuals, practice. All right, constantly throughout the day. But let's kind of go through a biting situation. And let's say I've got this Johnny who reaches over and bites Amanda. All right, I might have this on the next slide. Yes. Johnny bites Amanda. So first thing you're going to do is, because victim first, aggressor second, you're going to go to Amanda. And you're going to say, first you're going to do noticing. This is what's called noticing. Amanda, you have tears coming down your face and you're holding your arm. Something happened. What happened? Now, I know that you know what happened, but you have to ask her that, all right? You have tears coming down your face and you're holding your arm. Something happened. What happened? And Amanda's going to say, Johnny bit me. Then you're going to ask Amanda, did you like it? And I know that sounds funny and I know that sounds weird, but it's very, very important. Probably one of the most important parts of this technique. Amanda, did you like it when Johnny bit you? All right. And of course, Amanda's going to say no. All right. Now, asking this question and having Amanda answer no is not for my benefit. Who needs to hear this? Johnny, the biter, needs to hear this, all right? Did you like it? No. How did it make you feel? It hurt, all right? And again, the aggressor has to hear it from the victim. I didn't like it when you bit me, it hurt. Sometimes the teachers will say, Johnny, stop biting, it hurts, Well, how do you know? You weren't the one bitten, okay? They have to hear it from the victim. Now, some of you may be working with nonverbal children, so toddlers that don't have these verbal skills. If you're working with toddlers that don't have these verbal skills, then at this point you're going to lend these skills to the toddler. So, you can still say, little toddler, you have tears coming down your face and you're holding your arm. Something happened. What happened? And the toddler's going to go, ah, and you're going to say, you got bit. Did you like it? And the toddler's still going to go, oh, no, you didn't like it when you got bit. How did it make you feel? And the toddler's still, oh, it hurt. So see, you're lending the words, okay? And the other toddler is listening to this. Now, you're going to administer your first aid, get Amanda all cleaned up and everything, and then you're going to teach assertiveness, all right? Amanda, I want you to look at Johnny, and I want you to match your voice with mine. Johnny, I don't like it when you bite. Biting hurts. I just noticed I had Amanda as the biter, not Johnny, but y'all are following with me. All right, but the victim has to say, I don't like it when you bite me. Biting hurts. And then you are going to say to the biter, I'm here to make sure you listen to, Amanda or whoever the biter is, all right? But you want to teach that assertiveness, okay? The kids have to kind of stand up for themselves in a non-aggressive way and an assertive way, all right? There is that technique right there. Now, I gave you in your handout kind of a little biting cheat sheet that will kind of go over different age groups, why they're biting, who they typically bite, and then what to do, and then what message is the child trying to say here. Because again, y'all say it with me, okay? All behavior is a form of communication. Repeat that. All behavior is a form of communication. So when that child bites, they're trying to communicate with you. So when we have a 5 to 7 month old, why are they biting? Their teeth hurt. They're teething. They're typically going to bite you, the caregiver or the parent, the attachment figure. All right? They're probably going to bite the person they trust in this situation. So again, teething rings are helpful right here, but this is something with all of the age groups, all right? Remember at the beginning of the webinar, we talked about animals. I want y'all to think about a time that, you were walking your dog and another dog came running up and kind of attacked your dog, all right? And when that big dog attacked your little dog, what sound, what reaction did that little dog make? It probably went, and it yelped, all right? Yelping is a primitive response to say, stop, that hurts. And so that's why a lot of times with dogs, with cats, with animals, when they bite and the other animal yelps, the other one will back off, because that signals the brain you're hurting that other creature, all right? So we're talking about our 5 to 7 month old. They're teething. They bite you as a caregiver. You need to go, ouch, all right? And yelp and go, ouch, that hurt, all right? And make some expressions right there. Ouch, that hurt. But it's that high-pitched yelp that's going to signal the brain to stop. And I know some of y'all might be rolling your eyes and going, this is the craziest thing I've ever heard. Trust me, it works. It's pretty cool, all right? What message is being sent right here? This 5 to 7 month old, that brain is saying, my mouth hurts, help, all right? So that's what the biting, that's the communication. Help, my mouth hurts. All right, 8 to 13 month olds, why they bite, they get overexcited. It's that stimulation or lack of structure. They're either going to bite you or they're going to bite the other children around them. Again, you want to overreact with that, ouch, all right? And teach your children in the classroom that if another child bites them, that's how you respond is, ouch, all right? that high-pitched yelp. All right, here we're going to teach self-regulation. We're going to recognize the stressors. We're going to try to eliminate the stressors. And what is being communicated right here, the brain is trying to say, I'm so excited, I'm over-aroused, help. All right, I'm overstimulated right there. Your 15 to 36-month-olds, probably your most active biting group right there. Why are they biting? They're stressed, they're frustrated, they're trying to use this as a strategy to get something they want. This is called instrumental aggression is what this is called. Instrumental aggression is when a child is aggressive to get something they want. All right, very important that you understand that. This one, they're going to bite children. All right, the easy targets is who they're going to go after. What do we do in this one? We're going to locate the stressors. We're going to reduce stress. All right, we're going to start a shadowing program and a biting intervention program, lending the skills needed for that child to communicate appropriately. All right, what is the brain saying in this situation? What is being communicated? I know no other way to get what I want or express myself. Please help me. All right, that's what the brain is saying. Yeah, I will. I've got a question right there, and yes, I'm going to give you an incredible website to go to if you want more information on all of this. And in fact, so much of my information is coming from this website right there, consciousdiscipline.com, an incredible website. And that Dr. Becky Bailey is the one who I am quoting that says, nothing you can say or do after the bite will prevent future bites. That comes straight from Dr. Becky Bailey. So consciousdiscipline.com has some incredible resources in addition to what I'm giving you today to help you out. All right. One last thing. On your little chart that I gave you, the biting cheat sheet, the 4+ age group, if you have a child that's over the age of 4 and they are biting, there are some big time issues going on at that point, and you need to seek professional help. By the age of 4, that child should be able to regulate themselves. There's much more going on than what we are trained or certified to help that child with in that situation. All right, so last thing I wanted to talk about before our webinar ends, and I want to make sure I allow some time for some questions. A lot of you email me and you call me and you ask me about a biting policy. And what does your biting policy say? You know, and especially now with child care licensing, we are required to have an expulsion policy, or a policy on when and how do you kick children out. I'm not a big fan of that policy, but I just want to give you my opinion on a biting policy, okay? My opinion is that my policy is that biting is a form of communication. Biting is the child trying to communicate with us and say, I don't know how to express myself. And biting is an opportunity for us to teach. Okay, so in a biting situation, my policy is that we are going to work with that child and we're going to work with the family. But most important, we're going to work with our teachers because they have the ultimate power and the ultimate opportunity to help the child. If a child is biting in your early education classroom, it's because your classroom has too much stress. If you have a child biting in your classroom, they're not being engaged enough or they're being overstimulated. So when you look at why children bite and what can I do about it, the first person you need to look at is yourself, or look at the classroom. All right. And then, of course, work with the parent because you've got to have consistency. with what you're doing in the classroom and what's taking place at home. And so you're going to work with that parent. So I do not have a quote unquote biting policy that if you bite this many times, you're out. Because my theory on this is, why punish the child when the child is doing nothing but trying to communicate with us? Why punish a child when the child is giving us an opportunity to teach? Okay. There's an opportunity for us to make a difference. So why should I punish that child or family when the responsibility is in our hands? And that's kind of my theory on biting. Now, I understand, because as a director, you know, we've all been there where you get to a point where, do I lose one kid or do I lose 12? All right, do I lose one kid or do I lose 3 employees? All right. I understand that you're going to run into some of those situations, and the obvious answer is you're going to get rid of the one so that you can save the 3 employees, you can save the other 12 kids, or whatever your scenario may be. But if you get to that point, I hope that you go back and you reflect on the opportunities that you missed that allowed the biting to get this severe. All right. Because the responsibility and the opportunity was there. And if you've got a kid that's biting 12 times or whatever the scenario is, we've missed the boat somewhere. All right. But, you know, I'm an advocate for the child. I am an advocate for the family, and any opportunity that gives us, any situation that gives us an opportunity to teach, an opportunity to make a difference, you know, we need to take that opportunity. Biting is a tough one, but there's a lot of opportunities right there. The main thing, reduce that stress. Or when parents do not want to work at home, they put on your child, or also just still. Okay. All right. So yeah, I was just reading one of the chat sections. Now, I will tell you in just a little bit of time, if I do have to expel a child from the program for biting, this is when I will do it. All right. As long as I have a parent, as long as I have a family who is cooperative with me and working with me, and we have a biting action plan or a stress reduction plan, and both parties are participating in the plan, I will try to work with that family as long as I can. If I have a situation where I've got a child that is stressed and they're biting and the parent is not cooperative, and they make comments like, this is your problem, not mine. You know, I pay you $175 a week, you take care of this, then it's not going to last very long. And that family will probably be expelled pretty quick. That also leads me to believe that the stressor is not in the classroom. Because sometimes, not all the times, and that's why I saved this for the very end, sometimes the stress that is creating the biting can come from home. All right. And the child brings it with them to the classroom. Now, you've got a pretty big situation at this point. All right. And you've got to have parent cooperation at this point. Does it happen? Absolutely. It doesn't happen that often, though. All right. So I don't want people to think that this is the crutch. Well, the child must be stressed out at home. You know, this is kind of like a last, you know, scenario type thing on that one. Most of it we can control in the classroom. But I tell y'all, you know, one last thing before we go. As long as you have positive intent and you have unconditional love in your heart, and you combine unconditional love with positive intent, and you look at that child in the eyes and you say, I'm going to help you, I'm going to keep you safe, we're going to figure this out, I guarantee you, you will be successful. All right? but you've got to have the unconditional love and the positive intent to make it work. All right. Otherwise, you're going to be beating your head up against the wall. All right. Any questions or comments that you have? Type it into your chat section right there. If you have any questions, I'll give it just a couple of minutes. I hope that y'all enjoyed the material that we went over today. I hope that you learned something. I hope that you will go back to your classrooms and look for stressors, look for opportunities that that may be stressing your children out or overstimulating them. All right, and just continue to work with your kids. Remember, especially for toddlers and 2-year-olds, we are the advocate for the child. We are the voice for the child when the child cannot speak for themselves. And so it is our job as early educators to do what is best for that child and to help them. I did just get a question. Do we recommend teething bracelets and necklaces? Not necklaces, no. Teething bracelets, it would depend on the group of children, and I would need to look at all of the children present in the group rather than just the one. The reason why I say no necklaces is because that's a strangulation hazard, and licensing is not going to be too fond of that. Even the bracelets could, cause some physical harm if one child tries to yank it. But I'm not as concerned about that as I am the necklaces with strangulation. But the problem that I have seen with teething bracelets and necklaces is that when one child has one, all of the kids want one. And that's going to activate that curiosity in their brain that they're going to want to go to. Just the simple teethers, whether it be an ice pack or the round things that you put in the freezer, that right there, I think works best. Where can we go to identify classroom stressors? I got that question. You're going to go to your classroom, okay? You're going to go to your classroom and you're going to really take a look at it and observe, and you're going to watch your children, see how they react and respond to different things in the classroom, and you're going to have to identify your classroom stressors. There's nowhere you can go to find that except for your classroom. All right. Someone just asked, when we know that a child has been kicked out for biting, should we dare to enroll? That's a very good question. Not every program works for every child. Not every teacher's personality connects with every child. So the program that child got kicked out of, there may have been a lot of lost connections, okay? There may not have been the structure that child needs. Your program might be a better fit for them, and your teacher, their teaching style, their personality may be able to connect with that child in a way that didn't happen at the other place. It also may be that you've got more structure in your program, you've got more engagement in your program. So there's a lot of opportunity for that child to be successful. So I would say yes, I would enroll, all right, because the child deserves the chance, okay? And we definitely don't want to set the tone that we're going to start turning our back on a child who is doing nothing but trying to communicate with us. And they're trying to communicate the only way they know how. And, this program that kicked them out gave up on communicating. So yes, Michelle, I would give them a chance, okay, for sure. That was a good question, and I'm glad you asked that. All right, very good. If y'all have any other questions, y'all know y'all can call me. You can email me. Email always works best. You never know where I'm going to be, whether it's out of town or in a school. I'm actually cooking all week this week, so I'll be in the kitchen all week, except for right now when I'm doing the webinar. So emails do always work best for me. Of course, check out my website for our weekend mini conference. We're going to talk a lot about being optimistic and being an optimistic early educator. We're going to talk a lot about attachment figures and how to help these children with the connections and the communication. It's going to be really, really good. Hope to see all of y'all then. Thank you for joining our webinar. Again, your certificates will be emailed to you in approximately 1 hour. You will get an email that has a certificate in it. You must print the email and attach it to the certificate so that all of the required information that licensing needs will be on it. Okay, so print your email, attach it to your certificate when you get that in 1 hour. And so, like I said, that'll be coming to you. All right, awesome. Thank you, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the webinar, and I will see everyone soon. Thank you very much.